Horror lovers thrive on movies filled with slashers, demons, monsters, and creepy creatures. They eagerly anticipate the suspense and thrill of finding out what happens next. The formula seems simple. The survivor just needs to discover the enemy's weakness or outsmart them, seizing their weapon. If they can stay one step ahead, they can proudly shake off the dirt and wash away the blood, reveling in their survival. But when a horror movie shifts the focus to a child as the source of terror, it takes on a whole new level of unsettling. Whether they are born evil or possessed by malevolent forces, these pint-sized creatures invade our nightmares. There's something uniquely terrifying about children being the monsters that send shivers down our spines. It challenges our perception of innocence and taps into our deepest fears. What makes the Omen's Damien Thorn so scary? Children in horror movies form an entire subgenre of their own, and they can be truly sinister. What makes them even more frightening is that we typically perceive children as innocent and pure of heart. It's the unexpected absence of innocence that strikes a deeper chord of fear within us. One prime example of this is Damien Thorn from the Omen. While it's highly unlikely to suspect your own child of being the literal antichrist like Damien, for the Thorn family, it becomes their horrifying reality. After tragically losing their own child at birth, the father secretly adopts Damien, and things progressively worsen for the family as Damien grows older. Desperate to understand the unsettling occurrences plaguing them, the father embarks on a search that leads him to Rome and the Vatican. It is there that Father Brennan delivers the unsettling revelation to the Thorn family. Damien is likely not human. This realization shakes them to the core as they grapple with the notion that a child, who should be a blank slate, could be inherently evil. In psychology, the age-old nature versus nurture debate questions whether individuals are born evil or shaped into it. Damien represents the former, the embodiment of pure and extreme evil. However, the complexity arises because despite his despicable acts and wicked nature, the adults in the movie find themselves unable to confront him in the same way they would confront figures like Michael Myers or Ghostface. After all, he is just a child. One cannot simply resort to violence and physical confrontation against a child, or can they? Why do Esther's delusions and desires in Orphan chill us to the bone? Now, I understand that Esther from Orphan may not fit the typical child profile, but it's precisely the perception of her as a child that makes her truly despicable. Esther serves as a terrifying antagonist because, like Damien, she possesses an evil nature and lacks the presumed innocence associated with children. This is partly due to the fact that she isn't truly a child, although her foster and adoptive families are unaware of this truth. Instead, they believe they are welcoming a sweet and musically talented little girl into their lives. However, as Esther's behavior becomes increasingly peculiar, such as conveniently being present during accidents or attempting to seduce her adoptive father, the family delves into her past, uncovering her escape from a mental institution. Driven by her delusions, the longing for connections, love, and validation, Esther resorts to murder. Unlike the Antichrist or individuals with supernatural abilities, Esther possesses no extraordinary powers. However, her cunning, skills, and deceptive nature enable her to manipulate circumstances to achieve her ultimate goal: destruction. What makes her actions even more unsettling is the fact that, disguised as a child, some of her behaviors and statements carry an extra layer of creepiness that catches adults off guard. There's an unspoken assumption that a girl adorned with bows in her hair would be less likely to be suspected of arson and murder, making her all the more difficult to outsmart, as it's the last thing you would expect to have to do. Why do demons prey on children in horror movies? On the other end of the spectrum, a child like Regan from The Exorcist instills fear because her inherent purity is violently stripped away. Regan falls victim to possession by a demonic entity named Pazuzu, resulting in a complete transformation of her physical appearance and mental state. Through Regan, the audience witnesses unthinkable acts that neither the parents nor the viewers could have ever imagined. She crawls downstairs in an unnerving manner, projectile vomits green liquid, and even levitates from her bed. While the preteen and teenage years can already be challenging, it's highly unlikely for any parent to anticipate the possibility of demonic possession. In movies, demons specifically target children because they are more susceptible to control and manipulation, becoming vessels for their wicked deeds. Children are inherently vulnerable, and that vulnerability becomes exactly what the demons seek. It opens the door for them to essentially claim the child's being, just as we witness Regan succumb to her possessive entity. Horror movies capture the terror behind the parent-child relationship. There's another way children can be utterly terrifying, and in this case, we can partially blame the parents. Children often reflect their parents' relationship with them and their own emotional struggles. In the movie The Babadook, we see how a child can become the most fear-inducing element. The story revolves around a mother named Amelia and her son Samuel, who are left to navigate life together after the violent death of Amelia's husband. Samuel's behavior becomes increasingly troublesome as he exhibits violent tantrums and pushes Amelia away. As a child, Samuel struggles to articulate his emotions and simply wants to understand who his father was. Amelia finds it challenging to separate the trauma of her husband's death from Samuel, as it occurred while he was driving her to the hospital for childbirth. This lack of communication and lingering resentment on both sides gives rise to an ominous presence from one of Samuel's storybooks, The Babadook. In this case, Samuel isn't inherently evil, but his emotional turmoil, combined with his mother's suppressed resentment, summons a malevolent entity that wreaks havoc on their lives. The Babadook materializes as a physical manifestation of Samuel's identity crisis and emotional distress. Children often mirror their parents' behavior, and in The Babadook, a little vulnerability from Amelia could have significantly contributed to Samuel's emotional well-being. Horror movies thrive on pushing the boundaries of discomfort, and when children become creepy in films, it reaches the pinnacle of fear. The protagonists cannot confront them through conventional means because of the natural instinct to protect children. A battle to the death is unlikely. Instead, defeating these eerie children requires strategic thinking and immense mental strength to overcome their sadistic ways. In a way, children in horror movies symbolize the eternal struggle between good and evil. An unhinged evil child creates chaos that captivates audiences. Who doesn't love witnessing such twisted mayhem unfold?